Okay, everybody, it's Harry Boxer, the technical trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday, the 12th of August. This is a weekend webinar. Pretty eventful week and an important week in the market, and we've had a lot of those lately. Now you can see, though, coming off the bottom in October of last year from just under 3,500 to a high of over 4,800, 1,300 points in a five-wave advance, with this being what looks like possibly a 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a possibility, and not only am I thinking the same, but several of my colleagues think that the market may have one more leg up towards 4,800, and that could end it for the fall. We'll see. It's hard to say. We could come straight down here. Market's at a critical point. You'll see several stocks on the S&P and the Nasdaq leadership at a critical point here. The trend line since March shows that we're at the trend line. We're also in their lateral price resistance support, and the rising 50 period moving average. All of them juxtapositioning around 44, 30, 40 range. So if we break here, we're likely to come down probably to 43.80, 75.80, and maybe as low as 43.30. At this point, because of the orderly transition down, I wouldn't be shocked if the market rallied off here, but we may have to come down first. We'll see. That's the S&P 500. Here's the Nasdaq 100. Similar pattern. And you'll see that this pattern here is similar to what we're experiencing here, in my opinion. This is a little different. It's kind of a falling wedge. And we're just below the 50. That's the first time we actually closed below it for a couple of days since way back down in here. So, yeah, multiple. We had the beautiful base to break out and a long rising channel on the NDX. Again, if there is a leg up, we'd have to take out 15.9 first and get up to 16.9, something like that, as a target in that area. And key support for me right now is going to be 14,725 range. You get through that, then a lot of things crack. What's the transportation and IWM look like? Well, the trannies also in an orderly retrace. Now, it doesn't look like a top to me, even though I felt like we were due for one. And the pullback, and particularly the transportation, does look like a bull flag and it's back to the channel bottom. So if we do go further and we take out the high, first of all, resistance is 16.7-ish. Your target, believe it or not, is 1,000 points more than that. We could get a blow off some of the transportation stocks, but keep an eye on this level, 16,000. Below that, it starts to get real dicey towards 15,660, and even down towards the 15,405 zone. So you can see we're in a transition. Small cap stocks certainly had their day, but they got right to resistance across here, couldn't get through, and now this too is in a kind of a falling wedge pattern or pullback right to support. See the double bottom and this pullback low, this channel, rising channel bottom, rising 50, lateral price support, all juxtapositioning. And we did get a small bounce off of that on Friday. So Elliott wave dictates a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth wave up to about 207.8. So if we do get a fifth wave up in the market, it's likely that small caps are going to do very well in that phase, my take. We'll see. What about the underlying technicals? Well, the oscillator is back to near flat or 50%. It closed at 64. It got to minus, let's say, it got to minus 119-ish, which is about the most oversold we've seen in 4 or 5 months. And so I'm not surprised if that thing reversed, or at least it looks like it might be a reversal bar on the McClellan oscillator. The VIX had bounced into the 18 range and backed off to 14 and change. Not showing me much here. And the percentage of stocks above their 50, it's exactly 50. So half the stocks are above and half the stocks are below their 40-day moving averages. And you can see it's pulled back from a high in the 77 range, 76.7, which is historically kind of in an overbought zone. Let's take a look at some of the components, the big and most important ones like Apple. And Apple's weak. I want to show you a beautiful rising trend since January. Apple was 124. And where did it go to? 198. So 75 points nearly higher, or about a 60-65% gain in Apple from January to July. But look at the rollover, the crack here. This breakaway gap to the downside broke several layers, and now we have a falling wedge to secondary support right there. Any further damage in Apple might see a test of the 170 range. If Apple drops 7 more points, 8 more points, wouldn't be very pretty for the indices, that's for sure. Amazon, well, it's a bull flag. The earnings report, it popped to multi-year highs. A 1-year high. There's some key resistance on Amazon there, 146.5, and we did get as high as 143.5. So there's a resistance level up there after 5 waves down and a rally back up. So let's take another look at the daily. And again, if you're looking at this at any other stock, you'd say that's a bull flag, and it might be. It might fill the gap, it may test the moving averages, but the bottom line is any move over 144 and we're headed to 157.8, very possibly. So that's why I'm saying if some of these leaders like Apple turns around and Apple and Amazon breaks out, Google, etc., and Microsoft, just for those four by themselves along with NVIDIA, could really have a dramatic effect on the market. Here's Google, bull flagging, not bad, right? NVIDIA though, this is a rollover, folks. It broke support, it broke trend line, it broke moving averages, and it's down to secondary support. Any further damage, we get down to this huge gap and retest perhaps 370, 375. But for now, the current support is 401, and we're right at 407. So watch this one carefully. See that rising channel is a beauty, but don't forget we've gone from the October low at 108 to nearly 500. That's right, 108 to 480. Incredible 325% type move in less than a year. The darling of Wall Street, but it's fading and it's below the moving averages. That's one of the keys to me. Microsoft also below the moving averages, slightly below the trend line, and that's support. Can't let this go below 320.22, right where it is, because the next target next support is 303.4 and then 293.4. I'm concerned, to say the least, that Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Apple have all broken and could put big pressure on the markets. Netflix, too, has a head and shoulder top and just formed what I consider a bear coil that may have broken down. Now it looks like the juxtaposition of support down around 390.23 range is beckoning, and that's 30 points down from here. So the key is current support, if broken at 413.5 roughly, could lead to a quick 15-20 points further down on Netflix, and that won't be pretty. And that completes a head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. So be really careful, because when you start to see a slight break of trend line on Netflix, Apple is already broken, NVIDIA, as you can see, and several stocks in this group are broken. Got to be awfully careful in here. Let's take a look at Meta. That too is on the brink, potentially, as a rising angle of ascent. I'm going to redraw this, folks, to reflect this. So we're at a juxtaposition right there. Key support now 288.5. The moving average is about 293. So 293.5, 288.5 is support on Meta. If we crack 300, look for a move down into that zone for starters. And so I'm concerned that this may be a rollover too, but very similar to Amazon, it has a falling wedge or flag type pattern. A little different, a little shorter than Amazon. And Tesla, very similar. This could be a rounding top or even a head and shoulders. Bottom line is, though, this pullback in June, it got to 241 and now closing at 241. We're right at support. So what I need to see on Monday is the market immediately take off. And if it doesn't, we may have a quick hit to the downside and take Tesla down to 222 for starters. And that's 19 points down from here. Need to get that over 260, 61 and break it back out again. Still on a long-term trend line and above it, I should say. Looks like a massive 1, 2, and a 3, 4. A fifth wave could take this 350, 60 on Tesla, which would really squeeze the shorts. All right, let's look at the Nasdaq 100 components that I follow closely. I want to include ISRG this week, which is also a fairly large component, not quite the same, but this has had 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's pulled back down to support as well. With a key gap support at 290. It's 304 right now. The resistance on this is up here in the 320. It has room to test the trend line all the way down to 280. So kind of a mixed picture, but certainly several stocks are set up to rally off this level. And if they don't, then we get a slam dunk in the market, in my opinion. All right, let's look at some of the ETFs, the major ETFs we follow as well. Semiconductors, SMH. Concern is that moving average is broken. This internal trend line was broken, and lateral price support was broken. The next support is right where it is. So if it doesn't hold here, you have the trend line at 143 range. So there is vulnerability on SMH for 3 more points, and then you come to a very critical support level, 143.5, about 275 from here. On a long-term basis, it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, if I'm reading this right. Financials certainly have pulled back in an orderly manner as well, and it's pulled back to a near breakout point. So there's some support here. The big number down is down here, however. That's 66, about 3.5 points lower. Is if we break out to the upside and get through 72.3, I envision the fifth wave move up to us 80. So lots can happen here. The market is at a critical point, in my opinion. We're going to look at biotechs too, XBI. They're the worst group of those 3 major ones. Here's why. We peaked out in June. It's come down in a 1, 2 rising bear wedge and then a 3. If we get a 4 and the market does rally, it's going to have to get back up through 84.5 range, in my opinion, and then take out 87. These are your resistance levels as of this point. We get to there, you might get to there and there. But for now, if it's a 1, 2, 3 and a wave 4 forms, it's possible that at some point, if this is weaker than the rest, when we do get a market hit and a hard one, this could come down all the way down into the mid 70s. Now let's take a look at some of the other ETFs. We have oil that's really moved up nicely. The USO, which was in a distinct downtrend for a year, popped out above the lateral price resistance and completed a base pattern. It looks like it anyway. The target is a 78.9 zone. UCL looks similar, but not quite breaking out. It's still a base. But the gush, that's interesting. Take a look. Broken that declining top sign, the long-term declining top sign. Got up as high as 163 and change from about 100, so it moved 63 points in the last couple of months as oil increased about $10. Anyway, here's the bottom line. You're at resistance right there. If it gets through that, we have oil running. I wouldn't be shocked to see 200 on this thing, on the gush. Gas, well, the UNG is performed a nice base, and so is Boyle. Natural gas looks like it's based out and ready to break out. But when it got to resistance, it backed off and filled that little gap. Keep your eye on 78.65, Boyle. And over 8, UNG. Actually hit 808, and then came right down. If we do break out, I'm looking at 8, 85, and 10 as targets on UNG in immediate term. Gush, again, 200. Gold is not going anywhere. I don't know why anybody's excited about it. As a matter of fact, The GDX had a 1, 2, 3, 4, tried to bounce and failed, and then double bottomed here. Look, we get below this level, we're going down to 26.7. And if you look at Nugget, same. And JNUG, pretty much ditto, but JNUG's got a triple bottom. We cannot let this break 27.5, 28. Maybe base pattern, but look, I just don't see the attractiveness in the precious metals, not at this point, not me technically. Silver, the same, although the AGQ is still holding its long-term trend line, at least for now, and it's got a double bottom here. So any crack of 25 3/4, 26 could lead to 23.5 at the bottom of that channel. Perhaps a bigger drop, even down to 21.5. So I'm not enamored with that as well. So we looked at oil and gas, gold and silver, and let's go. We have a lot of stocks to discuss. Let's start alphabetically with AAOI, which had a fantastic 5-wave move. And look at this, folks. I think it's 1, 2, 3, but it could be 1, 2, and this is 3. Either way, possibility is that if we just keep this angle going, we might reach 18 3/4 to as even high as 22. Keep in mind where support is. We cannot let this get under 11.35. ABCM with a big 1, 2, 3, 4 and a long flag type consolidation after coming out of the base. Tells me if there's one more leg up, we could see 29, we could see 33, 34. Archer has been in the news lately. They did a deal with Boeing. The stock exploded on that, but it got right to resistance at 750.60 and reversed hard to 5 3/4, in danger of a breakdown. And I would have to put a stop on this one under 5 1/4. Careful. EDMA broke out Thursday, pulled back. We have a swing on this one. It just looks like this angle of ascent wants to continue. Mid-channel target would be about 5. Upper channel 6.5. Those are targets. EHR continues to flag, although it pulled back down and reversed 4 points on Friday to finish near the low for the day, and that's a big reversal bar. So, but the key is going to be here. If this is going to break down, we're going to stop it under 44. If it continues and takes out 54, excuse me, we might see 60 and even 70. AHI exploded in June, had his falling wedge and popped out, but twice could not get through and backed off. Nevertheless, the underlying technicals are increasing, getting bullish, indicating to me positive divergence technically. I like this chart. The targets are 5 1/4, 7 and 8.5. AI disappointingly broke the coil and has come down to test support. It's a 1, 2, and it's a 3, 4. It did the same thing, by the way, here, breaking support, and here breaking that before coming down to support. So I'm not sure what this is going to do, but it feels like if it holds that zone, we could still see 65 or 75. Careful with this, however. AMAM pop, falling wedge in December, January, Feb, and then explosive move in February, March. And finally, a rising channel took over. But in the last couple of months, it's just gone sideways, and it's coiling narrowly. But should it break out, we can see 22. Targets are 19 and 22 if it pops. AMD on the precipice. Now, this is another Nasdaq 100 component with multiple waves up, but doing what a lot of them are doing on support here. Key point for this one as well. If it breaks down, you're going to see 101. You might see something into the abyss down there, 89.90. NIP, one of the real strong drug and biotech stocks, just broke out Thursday, pulled back, held through 3-day lows, and an engulfing positive day Friday, up 202 or 3%, but a nice close. 69 is your target. APLD, after exploding in May, it's consolidating for 2-3 months now. It's back to support, trend line and lateral price support. Can't let it go any further than 7. You got to stop under 7. Targets are 10, 11, and 15 if it goes. App 11 exploded out of a base with a breakaway gap, popped, and we put a swing on it, and then it proceeded to retest and held, but it went from low 20s to almost 40, 39.5. My target is 42.3 and then 49.50. ARDX, beautiful rising channel from June of last year to March, April of this year, taking it from like 40 cents to $5. But that kind of a 1,000% move always needs some consolidation. We got it right there in a coil. It's coming out again, but watch this level. Above 4.25 is where I want to get long with it and with energy. ARLO, big dip to support and a big reversal engulfing bar on Friday. Going down to 904 and up to 11.25, finishing 1075, up about 5%. What we need though is on this one to get back above 11.5. Then you're on your way to 13 and 16. ARRY, after a 2.5, 3 month downtrend, a huge breakaway gap on Wednesday. And then inside day Thursday and Friday, it popped to a new weekly high. It looks like this wants to go further. My targets are 25 and 27.5 for starters. AUDC popped out, pulled back. We formed a flag and we put a buy on it, but it filled the gap Friday morning, only to reverse from 10.15 to 11.67 and closing at the high for the day, going away. I would call that a bullish engulfing reversal with a tail. Beautiful chart. I think 12 and 3/4, 13 would be target number 1. Then 15. ABDL, it's a beautiful junior biotech. Here it had a pop, coil pop pennant, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before going into a consolidation that eventually broke out and started to trend higher. From the low in September of last year, around 470, it's made its way into the mid-teens, tagging 1685 a month ago. Then came down to test support and the trend line and reversed Wednesday. Friday was a breakout day, in my opinion. Your targets are 16 3/4, 19 and 22. Azul, this is in a South American airline with an inverse head and shoulders and a breakout, then soared from 7 to almost double at 1378. And now the falling wedge in a 3-wave corrected. It looks like it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. If it pops, 13 and 17 are targets on Azul. Bridge Bio, beautiful base, breakaway pop, coil. Slow rising channel, and a breakaway move on news to the target around 35, and then a nice little pennant. My targets are 42 and 50 if this thing goes again. Dutch Brothers popped out on Wednesday. We put a swing on it. It's backing and filling it here. We'll see if it gets through. It really needs to take that out. The zone of resistance is right about 35.6, and then your target's 40. BTBT in the digital currency realm, crypto, 1, 2, and a long 3 and 4. I believe that if this thing perks at all, we're going to see 6 and 7. BZH, Beezer Homes, a beautiful builder and a beautiful rising channel. Most builders look like this. But coming out of the base with the breakaway pop in May, that was a buy signal followed by a flag. I missed it. It went from 20 to 36 nearly, and now it's flagging. Next target, 38, 43. Kaba, big run October, January. So this went from 60 cents to 12 bucks, 20-fold. Then it took some time to develop and consolidate. Note the recent consolidation action with Friday's pop of $1.57 or 13%. One of the highest closes we've seen, but let it get over 14.45 and you're on your way to 16.5 and 19.5. CAPR popped early last week and broke out. It's up 6 days in a row. The resistance will be back here in the October of October 22 when it reached 658. That's your immediate target. Secondary target will be moved to $8. CBay, beautiful chart. I missed this one too. This is kind of an inverse head and shoulders or V bottom with right hand extension and a flag, but there's your breakout. From that level, it went from 3 and change to 14 and pulled back, but it's in a rising flag. The targets are 15.5 and 20. CDLX, take trade a swing, inverse head and shoulder breakout, retest, spike, and pullback. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth wave gets me to 18 3/4 and 22.3. CFLT came out of a base, pulled back and wedged, and then broke out, but then backed right off. Reversed and wedged. Got to get about 38 to get going. If so, targets are 42 and 47. CGNT, tech trader swing when it popped and coiled here in May around 390. Eventually made it up to 623 and pulled back and wedged again. Supports 450. Resistance is 585. We get through that. I'm looking for 7 and 8. CHEK popped and then it had a beautiful steady rising channel with really good technicals. So I wanted to show it to you because it feels like this could extend and I'd have a target at 6. CLS comes out of a base beautifully and runs hard and spikes. And look at this little pennant telling me it may not be done. And if it isn't done, I got a $25 target. CLSK, they're stepping its way higher after a long downtrend. Broke out, consolidated for 2 months, popped again, falling wedge, exploded, and now falling channel right back to test the quadruple tops, which is support, and it bounced off of that. So your targets are 7 3/4 and 9 1/4. Coca Vita and a beautiful rising channel from a low of 7 and change all the way up into the 30 area. It's 300% increase. Quite frankly, it doesn't look done except for one thing. Underlying technicals really deteriorated here. I'd be awfully careful with this one. Caribou pop with a major breakaway gap and a run up to resistance, and then a wedge is formed. So we need to get this one above 7.5 3/4 with energy. The targets are that 8 3/4 and 10. CVNA, well, it's been really good to us this year as it popped here and there, and now after 5 waves, it's consolidating again. I don't know if it is able to hold this level. It's already deteriorated to a certain extent. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll pull this back here. But I want to stop this one under 34.5. See that wedge? If it breaks to the upside, we're looking at high 50s and low to mid 60s. DBI came down in a long downtrend, breakaway gap above the moving averages. They cross over. It's consolidating, a bullish pattern. That's a coil. Targets are 11 and 13. DraftKings Tech Trader swing broke out and continues to trend, although it spiked to 34.5 and came right down to test the moving averages and the trend line at 27.43. So it lost 7 points quickly, always a concern. Keep your stops in place under 27. The target, however, is 33.5 and 37. The MRC, nice base, breakout coil, and popped out of the coil. Jumped to 38 and change and pulled back in a little wedgie. My targets are 44 and 53. In the oil sector, Diamond Offshore looks really good. It consolidated for about 5 months, broke out, pulled back and coiled, took a dip, and then popped. It feels bullish to me. I look for a retest of 16.5, 17, and then 19, 20. EHang in the Chinese sector and Chinese aerospace with a beautiful chart. Easy stop under 19.5. Take out of the double top at 23 1/4. Should get you to 26 and 29. Elan, inverse head and shoulder breakaway gap. Pull back, pop. Got a nice rising flag in here. That's what this looks like. If that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th wave should get me to 14, 15. EPM, Evolution Petroleum in the oil and gas sector went through a quadruple top and is trending. 1290 target. EVLO, based, broke out, and now look at that beautiful coil. Keep an eye on this one. If it pops, the measure move is 20. This could double. EVLV breaks out of a long base, surges in coils, breaks the coil, but pulls back and tests a couple times and explodes on Friday. Friday jumped 186 to 32%. There's some resistance here, but your next target is going to be $10. Extra is on a run here, and I'm not sure how far it goes, but the trend line says 37. EYPT, double bottom breakout, falling wedge, held support near the breakout point there, and works its way up and trending towards resistance from the March 22 high. We get through here, possible we see this run to 21. Finger motion, breakout, we bought it at 209, it ran to 4 and change, doubled. Came down, we put it back on again, it went from about 3 3/4 to 7 and change, it doubled. It pulled back and now it's coiling. I bet you this wedge breaks out again and we double again from here. I'm looking for 910. FRD, Freeman Industries, beautiful base, breakout across a quadruple line and trending and now wedging. All-time highs ever. Kind of interested in that angle. And so looking for a little bit more near 20. FRSH popped out, we put a swing on it, it pulled back and now it's surging again. This looks great. Long base can support a big move. I'm targeting 25 and 30. Fastly in a rising channel and broke out. Then pulled back and tested the trend line, but held it. And it popped again. Now pulling back again. Eventually, this looks to me like a $28 to $30 stock. At this point, the mid-channel line at 23 is my target. GBTC, another Bitcoin related or crypto related. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and look at that consolidation. It's less reliable, but if it pops, we can see mid-20s. GCT, nice base. Pop, pull back, and now rounding bottom or rising channel pattern. Resistance is 11.75. We get through that, we're looking at 16, 17. GCOS breaks out of a base, breaks out of a long-term base. It steps its way higher. Currently at a coil. Watch for it. If it pops, 80 and 86 are targets. Groupon's been running since the V bottom in May with a tag 294. Currently not far from 10. So it's up more than threefold in a 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave started, it appears. We have resistance at 10, but the target's 12, 12 and a half. HKIT, recent IPO in April, ran up, pulled back in hard, and now it's breaking back out again. Not sure where this goes, but I have an $18 target. Holly breaks out of a base after a long downtrend and is running beautifully. I like the way it's angling. Not going to be shocked if it tests this gap. That would be a run to $9. HRTG, nice rising channel, breaking out on Friday. I got a target of 7. IDAI with a pop, falling wedge and pop inside day, and then popped on Friday, unable to follow through, but a positive day. Your targets are 4.5 and 6.75. IDYA, a beautiful rising channel and a pullback and then a breakout. Right near resistance here, we get to this level, 28 and 32 are targets. IMVT, one of my top picks of the year, and look at the way it looks. This thing has gone from the end of December when it was trading around 11, more than doubled to 25. Three-wave corrected pullback tells me it's not done yet. My target's 28. INOD popped on Friday big time and broke a wedge, but could not get the resistance. Watch this one carefully because above 14.25, I'm looking for 17, 18. INTC still in a long-term trend, base breakout, pullback, pop, and now the rising channel appears to be forming. It's fighting a tough market in the semiconductor group, but it's holding up well. Keys a double top if we break through 37.25. And I'm looking for 40 and 45. IONQ, fantastic chart. Breakout, wedge, pop, flag, pop, and now falling wedge and a pop on Friday. Volume was 53 million shares Friday. Huge volume on the upside of the breakout. Now looking for 20 and 24. Joby, along with Archer, look good, but this has come way off the spike high. Nearly 12 on June 29th. It's pulled back to 7.5 range. There's support right there. Keep your stops under 7.5. If it goes, 9 and 11 are targets. LFMD breaks out of a base and runs hard. And literally from the May pullback low of 140, this has gone to 545, or about 300%, almost 250%. Now the 1, 2, 3 wave corrective wedge. It looks to me like if it pops mid-channel at 6 and upper channel at 8 might be targets. LI was really good to us on a swing that broke out from the mid-20s and got up to the high 40s. But it's come down pretty hard here. Broken initial key support is right at the trend line. Any further damage, we're probably going to test 37. MOD, beautiful rising channel, all-time highs. A little extended, but it might see low to mid-50s. NEOG, V bottom back in October of last year, and then a pop, hold the moving average, and pop again. It's 5 waves up, but it's at resistance. Should we get to 23.5? I would not be shocked to see high 20s. NARV breaks out here, forms a coil, pops here, runs up to near resistance and backs off to form a wedge. Double top has to be my target at 15. That's your next target. And then broke out on Thursday, followed through Friday. I wanted to just show you the long baseline. It's a 1-year base and a breakout. Targets are 5.75 and 7. OLMA breaks out of a base, pulls back and tests, and then it spikes. Now it's flagged and broken out again. 2 consecutive inside days here, targeting 14. ORIC also broke out a month ago, back and filled, flagged. Tried to break out Friday. It's not far from it. If it does go 11.5, and 14 are targets. Oscar, V bottom, exploded, 50% Fibonacci, and exploded again, back then filled and ran up to my target zone near 10. Then the pullback is testing the trend line and bouncing. However, until I see this one over 8 3/4, I won't be happy. Targets would be 10 and 13 if that does occur with volume. OUST pop Friday, we put a swing on it. I think it's ready. We'll see. I'm anticipating a bit. I need this to follow through and get through 697 and then 740. Once you get through that, your targets are 8 3/4 and 9.5. PGY, also coming out of a nice base across here and extending. My targets are 3 3/4 and 5. Powell popped, exploded. We put a swing on it. It's backed off and flagged, and we see that happen. My target now 95. QTRX, a beautiful base breakout here, wedge, rising channel, popped out. Targets 32 and 36 if it extends, which I think it might. RDW popped and wedged. Keep an eye on this one. I think it can go. Next target will be a test of 465. Remedy Global, beautiful rising channel coming out of the base here. Here's your pop. Volume, price volume surge, rising channel. And then it coiled and broke out. And then it's wedging and had an engulfing bar on Friday. Looks really good. I'd have to say next target might be as high as high 20s, low 30s. So this could be interesting. Rigetti, after a long downtrend, Rigetti breaks out and retests and starts a new rising channel and a 1, 2, 3, wave 4 pullback right there. Support was there across this line, held it. Friday was an important pop. My target's now 4.5 and 6. RIG, beautiful flag is formed. This is a oil and gas related driller. It's the highest level we've seen on this stock since 2019. Your next targets are going to be 10 and 14. Rivian pulled back pretty hard this week and broke initial support, filled the gap, but that's as far as it needs to go, in my opinion. Any further damage, you're likely to see 19 or worse. Be really careful with this one. It's doing a retracement. Rayovan, one of my top picks of the year back in December last year when it was in the mid-single digits, has made it up to 12 and it's about 140, 50%, and still wedging and flagging, etc. Target 13.5 and 15. Roku exploded. We put a swing and ran up to the target and pulled right back. It's back to support here. Needs to hold right about this level. That's what I see as a rising channel with a target near 105.10. Rapid broke out Friday, a long multi-month consolidation. Now looking for a move to 56, 60, 70. Rhythm recovering after the big run up, it pulled back, and by mid-July was at the low for the year, around the 16 range, but it sure has run 10 points. It's at resistance. I'd like to see it consolidate, but my next target is 34.5. Sweet greens went public a little while back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 way down and run up. I like the look of it. I think it's broken out. Moving averages crossed over. The trend is intact. As long as it holds Friday's low, that's where I'd stop it on the 13. Targets are 16, 18, and 21. Sapiens, another software stock that broke out there, ran up and flagged and popped. Extension targets are 33 and 37. Companion, thread up. Thread up in a low price rising channel. I've seen it go from 75 cents to 4.25. My extension targets are 5 and 7. TISI stair stepping after popping. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth wave is underway. I suspect the fifth wave makes its way up to 13. Tango Therapeutics exploded Wednesday, pulled back Thursday, and went up again Friday. If it gets to 9.5, we're looking at 12 and 13. TSAT broke out of a base with an explosive move on Friday, taking it from 846 to 1650, nearly doubling, and finishing back at 1298. It was still up 453 or 53% on 26.5 million shares. That kind of move usually gets some follow through. I'm looking for a test of 18. Tupperware. Well, we did great with this one a few days on the day trades, but it went from literally 60 cents to almost $6, a tenfold increase. And it only took a week and a half. therefore the pullback. Now there's support right here. I just don't want to see it under 3. That would collapse it, I think, further. Uber coming through the trend line and just below or at the 50-day moving average. I'm concerned. It had a nice run from 28 to 50, and so almost doubling, and now the pullback could see lower levels. If it does go, 51 and 55 targets. UIHC, beautiful rising channel. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th wave is underway, but because of momentum in the engulfing bar on Friday, I think there's a possibility we could see 14. UIBI, look at the breakout here. Breakaway gap and a rising channel. Don't know how much energy it has to complete this pattern, but I wouldn't be shocked to see 10 or even 11.5. Upwork, breakaway gap, popped and now flagging. If it extends, 17 and 19 are targets. URGN exploded for 2 days, taking it from 8 3/4 to 24 nearly, and then the pullback, now wedging again. My target's 27.5. Vera breaks out of a base, runs up, flags, and pops out and does a mini flag, and it's popped again. Looking for a move to 22.5 on momentum. Vera Bradley, VRA, breaking out a key resistance after rebottoming and platforming here. Looks like it wants to extend. There's some resistance right where it is, but any upside could get this to 7.5 and even 8.5. VRT's been phenomenal ever since the April low when it was trading around the $12 range. It's literally tripled to 36 and doesn't look done yet, but it is extended. Momentum could carry it at the low 40s. BST, another oil and gas stock, breaks out of a big base and extending. This is an all-time high territory stock, 32, 34 type targets. Weaver breaks out of a base, flags, pops, retests, and runs up and flags again. It's pulled back down. It's right at that gap there. So this is key support under 9.25. If it does run, 12 and 14 are targets. Weight Watchers, a little choppy, but it did break out here. We had a nice swing on it, and then had a falling wedge for a couple months. It broke out again and then popped. Mini wedge, explosive breakout, got it up to 12.25, and then the pullback held support right there. That's your stop under 7 3/4. But if we get to 12.5, I'm looking for 14.5 and 17. XPEV, like the other Chinese automotive stocks, with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move, and what looks like an explosive 5th wave, reversed and came down. So this may be done temporarily. Just want to give you my heads up on that. XPL Logistics, my favorite trucker logistics stock, has gone literally from 30 to 77 in the last 3 months and has extended, but the target now is 88. Yelp broke out of a long-term base, but not quite up to the 2018 high, which saw it get to 52. The targets would be a retest of 47 and then 52. However, must stop on the 41. And that's it for the longs. I have a few shorts for you to look at, not many, but just keep your eyes on these. We'll start with BMEA. Now, I told you that bear flag looked dangerous, so it broke down and snapped up and back down again. So now I'm looking for a move. Once we break this 17 level down to 14. Crocs looks dangerously vulnerable here, and a breakdown here gets me to 90, 91, and 83.4 at least. EXAS breaking a long-term uptrend with a breakaway gap through the moving average and now falling channel, falling wedge. If it backs up, fine, and if it does on a low volume, it's a short. My target 77, and then the gap filled to 70. Intap, topping pattern broke. Little bump. If it does bounce near 35.6, I'd be shorting it for a move down to the high 20s. Looks like a topping pattern in INTT. Terrible technicals, and it's been like that since June. It broke down, it formed a bear, little mini wedgie there. Right there, see it? Broke out again, and then Friday had bearish engulfing day. I wouldn't be shocked to see this get down to 13, 14. LW broke down hard and formed the bear coil. Boy, did that look bad, and now it's coming down even further. There is a gap here to contend with. at about 93.5, my next target, but it might fill that gap or more and get down to 88 or even 84.5. Manhattan Associates came down hard and flagged. It bounced Friday and it did on good volume, so be careful. I wouldn't let this get any further, say 194. If it rolls over, your targets are 183 and 175. Omnicom, topping pattern broke, it rallied back to the breakdown point, couldn't go anywhere, and then it fell apart. Did reverse Friday, so keep an eye on this one. Stop over 84.5. Your targets are 74 and 67. Impinj, we talked about this one several times in the last few months. That rising bear flag failed at resistance, rolled over from another one, and got slam dunked. From this level, 91.85 for 55 in 3 weeks. So it's bound to bounce in here, but it really looks ugly. Don't know how far they take this down. Yeah, it's at support here. Next target might be 40.42 if it collapses. Rambus looks like this is rolled over, bounced and failed, and rolled over again, bounced over here. What we're looking for is a break under 48.5 to get us down to 41 or even 35. Sage, I warned you when it broke down here and formed the bear flag, that looked vulnerable, and then it came down in 1, 2, 3 and formed a little minor bear wedge. At this point, he needed to have covered on the 5th wave spike down. But this one's dropped from 49 to 16 in a month. This DGR also breaking down, it appears. It broke that angle. Now maybe testing that angle. But in order to do that, it's got to come down to 33.4. That definitely looks like a bear wedge here. SXT really ugly all year and still making lower lows. Eventually you might see 52 and 47.8. Technoglass, one of my favorites all year, has finally broken. It looks like it's at or near support. It might bet if you get a bear flag or a wedge or a bounce, you might form a head and shoulders. Eventually, though, keep your eye on this one for a move down to 28. BMEA, very nasty looking pattern, looking lower. I got a target of 14.5 and 11.5. Crocs, currently my favorites. Spectator swing short, hidden shoulder top, breakaway gap to support, bounce and form a bear wedge, and now at resist, at support. Your targets are 90, 83. If it really gets ugly, high 60s, low 70s. So we went over these, and that's going to be it for me, folks. We have a lot of stocks that look pretty ugly in here. Enough to really get juicy if you want to do some shorts. This is HB signing off. Have a great weekend. I will talk to you Monday. It is going to be a critical week, no question about it. And I'm really anxious to see what happens. For now, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you Monday.